So the more money that they throw out this, and they're now talking about another 3 trillion, it's never going to be enough. This is a black hole. It is never, ever, ever going to be enough.
Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. You're on my backup channel, and thank you so much for that. The reason for that is that after YouTube demonetized my channel last week, Thursday, they surprised me Saturday morning with another gift. They gave me a strike for a video I posted 5 years ago saying it was hate speech. And the penalty for that strike is I can't upload any videos or live stream for 1 full week. Now, if they give me another unwarranted strike for some reason they've made up, then I can't upload for 2 weeks. And of course, a third strike, they terminate my channel altogether. So if you found this video here on my backup channel, please subscribe. And if you want to support us on Patreon, it is our last line of defense against YouTube's fascism. And of course, this channel is already on BitChute and other social media platforms. But YouTube is the biggest game in town. So guys, one more thing. YouTube has forced us to go outside and find advertisers on our own, and we've done that. There's many advertisers that want to reach educated patriots like yourselves. So just a quick word from this interview's sponsor. 14.4 million Americans fell victim to identity theft in 2018 with over $1.7 billion in damages. Now with the recent COVID-19 pandemic, fraudsters are on the prowl, and it's smart to protect yourself from an identity attack. IdentiSafe offers identity protection for as little as $9.99 per month. They provide access to credit monitoring, dark web scans, 24/7 identity agent support, real-time notifications, social security monitoring, change of address alerts, personal ID monitoring, white glove restoration, credit monitoring, credit score tracker, credit report, and up to $1 million in insurance, including a 30-day money-back guarantee. So don't delay. Sign up today. It's free for 30 days. And again, they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So visit protectwithsgt.com for this special offer from IdentiSafe and get a free dark web scan and a free 30-day trial. I'll leave the link below this interview. All right, guys, let's begin. Welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's wonderful to have you guys back. It's time for an economic and precious metals update with my friend Lynnette Zang from ITM Trading. How are you, Lynnette?
I'm excellent, Sean. I'm very happy to be here during this period of time.
Well, I'm very happy to have you as well. We have so much to talk about. That's an understatement. Let me do a screen share here, and let's just demonstrate how things are going well. Can you see that? You probably can.
Yeah.
Oh, you can. Okay. Well, that's the U.S. national debt. It's $25.2 trillion. How in the world are we going to extricate ourselves from this mess, Lynnette?
We aren't. It's really simple. We aren't. This is the whole point of having to transition. I mean, we're already in the transition of the reset. Yeah, the whole system has to be reset. There's no way to fix it, and I don't think they can hold it off that much longer either. I mean, you're talking unlimited money printing globally.
There is a news item I wanted to throw at you over here on Zero Hedge. I can't find it now, but it said something about Jerome Powell. His medicine is the problem. There's no cure for what ails us in this case, and throwing more printed dollars at the problem is only going to send us down a black hole. I've been saying for a long time, Lynnette, that this is not going to end well for the unprepared. Is it?
Exactly.
Is there any way you see this ending well? Is there any way that our president can nationalize the Fed or do something anything?
No. And first of all, if you take a look at what's happening, the Federal Reserve is, as are all central banks, are working with governments right now. So you've got all sorts of unlimited stimulus coming at the global economy from every single different area. And we have already entered a depression. I mean, you're looking at unemployment rates at 15.7% or 15.4%. And they anticipate that at least 42% of those jobs that have been lost are not coming back. So they're no longer temporary, which is what a lot of people thought was going to happen. And when you're looking at an economy that is so dependent upon consumer spending, how are they going to get the consumer to spend? universal basic income. And I personally think we're going to see some form of that before the end of this year. Because remember, the PPP, the payroll protection plan, or whatever that is, but that ends September 30th. So that means that all of those people that have been that companies have managed to keep on the payroll without any business, and states are trying to open up, and people are so tired of being cooped up. But you know, I don't know if you had a chance to see this, but I did a deep dive into the Wuhan lab in China and all of the pieces that they had written about the coronavirus. So they've known about this for many years. And not only have they known about it, but they were, and I'm not just saying it's the Wuhan lab, by the way. If you look at their partners, which anybody can Google and go to their site and look at their partners, they're partners from all over the world. And frankly, we helped fund that. And Dr. Fauci had participated in experiments to create a superbug. So when they were experimenting to create the superbug and they knew that they had done it, and they knew that it was a danger and that it would most likely get out, they did not do anything to figure out a cure for it at the same time, which is kind of interesting to me. So no, I don't see any way that this can end well. The world that we live in is forever changed. It's forever changed. And all of this money printing, then they don't really have any choice, but the central banks are bailing everybody out. But what you need to understand is the taxpayers are the ones that actually have to pay that. So when you look at the debt clock, you know, that's only a piece of the debt. That's not all of the debt. But understand that we are responsible for it. And I think if you put that up, I can't see it now, but I think each taxpayer is responsible for somewhere north of $200,000 each. You have an extra 200 grand that you could throw at this mess? Yeah, what does that say? Almost $203,000 or something like that. It's on that same line as the U.S. national debt.
Right there, $202,935
and growing
per taxpayer. It's $76,000 per citizen.
Exactly. So the more money that they throw out this, and they're now talking about another $3 trillion, it's never going to be enough. This is a black hole. It is never, ever, ever going to be enough. But here's the thing. I've had so many people ask me, well, if consumers aren't spending because that little $1,200 that they sent out, a lot of people paying some bills, but saving it because they're so uncertain about the future. So the stimulus, I mean, I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself, but I have to say that this time they had to throw the public a bone, and that's all they threw them. The stakes still went to the corporations, to the banks, to the system. So $1,200 and then you're one and done? No, that won't work. They're going to do something universal basic income. I don't know what it'll be, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, but something consistent to get people to spend. But what do you think that does to the value of the currency?
No, you're right. It's absolute lunacy, Lynnette. And there was a Democrat recently, I forget his name, two Democrats that proposed new legislation, a bill to replace people's income until the employment rate returns to what it was prior to coronavirus. And his proposal included not only $2,000 per month to every adult. In his view, adults include 16 and 17-year-olds. Can you imagine the moral hazard of giving 16, 17, and 18-year-olds $2,000 a month that they didn't earn through their own hard work? I mean,
and everybody else.
They're trying to destroy this country. It's never been more evident. And my hat's off to you for mentioning Dr. Fauci and the virus that shall not be named, because YouTube's Susan Wojcicki has explicitly stated any information appearing on YouTube that contradicts anything coming out of the World Health Organization will be removed. And
Oh,
yesterday, we're having this conversation on May 14th, friends. On May 13th, YouTube terminated my channel's ability to have advertising at all. So a 10-year YouTube partner in good standing now has been fired essentially from YouTube, and I no longer qualify for any ads on any of my videos. So again, my profound and
wow.
sincere thanks to my patrons. Many new patrons have stepped up to help fill the gap here, because the powers that be, Lynnette, are aligned against we the people, and it's never been more clear. Who are the powers that be? Not only are they crooked politicians, they're the banks, and they're willing accomplices in the mainstream media.
Mhm. And I take it a step further because I did an interview with Shad Sullivan, who it was the guy whose video went viral on the food supply chain and the four big meat packers. So, I mean, the consolidation in the media industry, in the food industry, it's not just meat, but also the seeds. I mean, it's all in the hands of just a few, and they're controlling the many. But I think that what the coronavirus has shown all of us is that that really doesn't work in a crisis. That's one thing I can say about bringing the jobs home, which President Trump started a few years ago, actually. And we've been going, from globalism back to nationalism. And I think that this has really made that very clear, that we need the jobs here, we need the manufacturing here, and to have all of the power in a few hands, no. So the opportunity, Sean, this is the piece that Shad brought out that really actually gets me very, very excited, is that this could very well be the opportunity for small business to start to grow again in this country, because it's the small meat packers that have stepped up to the plate. And apparently, as he was saying, that there are more people coming to the fore and opening new meat packing businesses. And I think maybe we'll see that right along with all of the manufacturing that needs to come back to this country.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I've been saying that what's playing out right now is like a movie. We couldn't have imagined this 3 months ago. You said it before I hit record. I wish I had hit record earlier. This pandemic, it's the perfect boogeyman.
Yes.
It's the perfect boogeyman, Lynnette, because I can't think of any other scenario in which the powers that be that stand against humanity would have been able to get away with what they're doing right now. I can't think of any. I mean, 9/11, not even close. This
Nope.
boogeyman is providing tyrannical governors around the country the reason to shut down their economies and bankrupt their citizens. And now people are starting to revolt. I'll show you something here in a second regarding that. But this thing is the ultimate boogeyman, isn't it?
Well, it is, because if there was another financial crisis, 2008 isn't that long ago, and people still do remember that. And so they couldn't have gotten away with just bailing out the big guys, because the public would have revolted over that. You remember the 99% and Occupy Wall Street, and actually, it's not that any of that ever went away. There was a growing global backlash against these governments, against these banks, against these systems. Interestingly enough, and we were in the middle of a global slowdown. I mean, we were. So, and that was just all of the data. But having a pandemic come out, now everybody is pointing a finger, oh, it was the coronavirus, it was the coronavirus. Everybody's got to listen to what we're telling them to do. We had a client of ours that lives in Hawaii, because I've been having people send in if they have personal direct experience with something. He was in Hawaii, he bought some poke, and wanted to sit down on a park bench and eat his poke, and nobody was around. And when he looked up, like within minutes, he had 3 police officers, 3 National Guardsmen demanding that he leave. And he's like, there's nobody around, but they were just like, little Hitlers.
Yeah.
And he asked them, because he didn't really want to agitate them, he asked them if he could walk on the pier. And they said, yes, he could, but not stop. So look at what they're getting us used to. And if you mentioned 9/11, when did they put in the TSA? The biggest travel day before Thanksgiving. So they do this to get us used to complying. And I'm mad as Hades.
Me too.
Mad as Hades about all of this, because we're giving up our rights because we're scared. Yeah, it absolutely, coronavirus is an absolutely perfect cover. Look at what's happening in Hong Kong. So they're going in and they're arresting all of the pro-democracy leaders. And the same kind of thing is happening in India. Even Warren Buffett, there was a union that was trying to form in one of Warren Buffett's plants. And they were in the middle of negotiation, and it looked like everything was going through. And then coronavirus hit. They fired all of their guys in that plant and hired independents. So under the cover of coronavirus, they're clamping down on protests. But is that going to make it better? Is that going to make the protests go away? Or is that going to create a revolution? That's my question.
Well, it's a very, very good question, and it leads exactly to what I wanted to show you. Let me do that now. When you push people too far in their red-blooded Americans, you tend to get a result that maybe you didn't want. Anti-lockdown protesters swarm Michigan Capitol. Governor receives death threats. I don't advocate death threats, but look, we the people have a Second Amendment. Now, the hand of the Queen, Justin Trudeau in Canada, just disarmed his citizens by announcing that that the government is banning all assault weapons. So we see the totalitarian tiptoe with our neighbors to the north. But here in this country, we still have a Second Amendment, and people in Michigan are damn well fed up with the tyrannical behavior of Gretchen Whitmer. Point being that people who have a Second Amendment cannot be pushed into absolute despotism unless they go willingly. And I don't think people are going to go willingly, Lynnette.
I'm crossing my fingers on that, because I hope you're right, because if we do, what they have in mind for us on the other side of this will not be to our benefit. And that takes us to the money system. So, you're talking about your right to bear arms, and you're talking about a sound money system. And this could be our opportunity to have a much more fair government system, monetary system on the other side of this. And and with a lot more entrepreneurs out there, because between Amazons and Walmarts and all of these huge corporations that have basically come in and killed the mom and pops, when the mom and pops employ at least half of the citizens of the US, we need that local business. We need that. And so there's going to be a lot that are not coming back from what we're dealing with right now, unfortunately. But there are opportunities. And I guess what I would want people to do, and I'm certainly doing this myself, is looking around for what those new opportunities are, and then take advantage of those to create that new economy that is more fair, that supports the little guy. I'll tell you, you want to know one of my favorite things that I see happening in this whole mess?
What?
Is the destruction of that sharing economy, where you just have a few people that own everything and everybody else tethered and guided by that. I never thought that was a good idea, ever. Not for the masses anyway, maybe for the few that owns that stuff. But, maybe we have a shot at having a much better economy on the other side of this. That's always been my hope.
Well, it's my hope too. You mentioned Walmart. Let me show you this. So during this lockdown, Walmart has remained open and flourishing, just like Amazon. And on the Forbes richest people list, we see Jim Walton worth $53 billion. There's more than half a dozen Walton family members on this list. Meanwhile, in Michigan, barbershop owner Carl has reopened his barbershop, and it's taken the Michigan militia to stand in front of his barbershop to keep it open because the police wanted to come and shut it down. You want to hear another glimmer of hope? I just mentioned this in my interview with Zach Voorhees. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has ruled that the governor's shutdown orders are unconstitutional, and they've ordered all businesses to be back open. That's a big glimmer of hope. That's our ultimate hope, is that honest judges will overturn these tyrannical laws from state to state across the nation, Lynnette.
You know, I agree with you. We do have those health issues that we have to be aware of. And this is something that nobody's talking about, except I keep talking about it. What is your best defense against coronavirus or any other disease like, say, cancer or anything else? It's called boosting your immune system. It's called eating food that will actually help protect you from getting this disease, because it's not going to go away just because the states are open. So we really have to look at how they have absolutely destroyed our food system and make better choices to boost your immunity so that when the states are open, you can go about and lead a more normal life. They don't talk about that. They just talk about finding a vaccine that they can inject you with.
That's right.
I don't want that.
Yeah, nobody wants the Bill Gates magic vaccine. Nobody wants to stand down until Bill Gates ushers out a vaccine that he says is safe and that the government makes mandatory. You better be careful, though, my friend. When you talk about vitamin C, YouTube bans medically unsubstantiated content from sites. So people saying take vitamin C, like take vitamin C or take turmeric, those are examples of things that would be in a violation of their policy. Of course, that's Susan Wojcicki talking about those things being a cure for coronavirus. But if you even mention the C word, coronavirus, and if you mention vitamin C having an ability to boost your immune system, that probably, according to YouTube, is grounds enough to have your content terminated. This is the brave new world in which we live, Lynnette, and it's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying. You and I, we've been having these conversations for a couple years now, several years, and we never dreamt 3 months ago that we'd be here now. It was an impossibility. Now let's go back to that U.S. debt clock.
Yep.
Hold on. Down in the corner, can you see that, Lynnette?
I can't see it, but you're talking about paper to physical,
yes,
right?
Paper to gold ratio now 87 to 1. I think it's actually quite a bit higher than that.
It is.
The paper to silver ratio, 173 ounces of paper silver for every 1 ounce of physical. The dollar to silver ratio, $2,629 per ounce, when in 1913, 1 ounce of silver was $2.67. Now, because of the paper manipulation on the COMEX, etc., the price of silver today is only $16 an ounce. In 1913, it was $2.67 per ounce. Are we to believe that they've only inflated the dollar 500, 600% since 1913? It's absolutely absurd.
Well, it is. And the other piece that's also really absurd that's been happening is an absolute decoupling of the physical market to the paper markets. You can't buy an ounce of silver at spot price. I can't, and I'm in the business. So I can't buy it at spot price because the demand for physical, but this is true for both silver and gold, has exploded. And so you're going to pay maybe, almost twice as much, $10 above spot or something like that for silver, something close to that, because that is a more accurate market. But having said all of that too, Sean, I want you to keep in mind that they have to reset the currency. And the way that they reset the currency is by taking that fiat money, so in this country, US dollars, that have no intrinsic value, and they are absolutely destroying whatever little purchasing power value is left, and they revalue it against gold money. So even with spot at 1750 or at 2000 or at 5000, I recently, so it's higher than this now, just look at that debt clock. The more that grows, the higher this goes. But I recently did it on a global basis, and the true fundamental value on a global basis of 1 ounce of gold, so were they to do the reset when I did these calculations a couple months ago, the true value is 11,500. Now, if I were just to do it, and I heard Jim Sinclair recently say this, and I can tell you I've run the numbers myself, so I 100% concur with him, but I never use this number because people would think I'm insane. But if you just use the US numbers, the true value of 1 ounce of physical gold is 50,000. You know, but you got to keep in mind, and that does impact silver. You know, silver lags, and you have the highest gold to silver ratio, or near the highest ever, because it's also an industrial metal more than gold. Gold is also used in industry, but silver's used more. So what do you have there? You have silver and the spot market, and all the spot markets are manipulated anyway. But you have the spot market not really reflecting what's really happening in it. So you're looking at silver that should be somewhere around, you know, $800-900 an ounce. It's a bargain. People need to be taking advantage of this. Lord knows the central banks are. JP Morgan is. Those that understand money, they are taking advantage of it.
Right. Yeah, I keep this Pamp Swiss bar on my desk as a reminder of what value real money is right now, meaning what a bargain it is, because this beautiful silver bar you guys see before you right now can be had for $650, Lynnette, and these bars have 32.15 troy ounces of silver in them. Now, just think about this, folks. The silver bar you see before you is $650, and the same amount of gold, a kilo bar of gold, is going for around, what, $56,000 a bar, Lynnette?
And that's still a bargain.
But it's insane when you think that silver is so cheap. Historically, we've never seen silver cheaper. What's the gold to silver ratio now? Like 110 to 1?
No, I think, well, the last time I looked, or at a peak, and so this was just recently, I don't know what it is exactly at this moment, but I think it was 120 to 1.
Let's do it right now. I'm going to call up a calculator.
There you go. Yeah, and then keep your calculator out, because I'm going to ask you to do the next one.
All right,
which
we're going
is
to divide 1,750, that's the price of gold today,
right
by 16, that's the price of silver at spot anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, 110 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold.
Right. Now you have your calculator out, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to buy a silver contract, it costs $150, and it controls 5,000 ounces of silver.
Okay.
$150 controls 5,000 ounces. So if you take 5,000 and you multiply that times 16, then $150, this is leverage, you guys, leverage. $150 controls $80,000 worth of silver that is severely undervalued. If you do the same thing with gold, it controls 500 ounces. So 500 times 1750. Think about this. This is Wall Street. This is leverage. This is manipulation. Okay? $875,000. $150 controls $875,000 of gold. And whatever that was of silver, $80,000. Do you see how insane that is? It's insanity.
There's no way $150 could control $875,000 of gold.
Pull up the CME,
Is that right?
You'll see it. No, I'm telling you, I know that's accurate. I know that's accurate.
That's
Anybody
insane.
can Google it. All they have to do is, and that's not even, if you're a central bank or one of their minions, it's $110. So
That's
150.
insane. So this is how they manipulate the
Morgan.
price of gold, using paper, using derivatives, using phony money, funny money, phantom money, using ones and zeros and digits and nonsense, contracts that'll never be settled in physical, which leads us to the final topic here, the LBMA and the COMEX. The COMEX does not have the metal to satisfy delivery for those who want to stand and get their gold. Okay, quite the opposite problem that the people had with oil contracts. They didn't want the oil. So oil went negative because there's nobody to take it or store it. Meanwhile, people want the gold, and the COMEX is saying, whoa, force majeure. We don't have the gold. Please take paper. Please take cash. Please settle in cash because we don't have the gold. For those saying, no, we want the gold, they're saying, well, geez, we're going to have to get it from the LBMA. And the LBMA is probably saying, well, we don't have that much to give you either.
Exactly. And so what they did was they made the contracts bigger. They brought out new contracts. And I would like to talk about oil for a second, because even though the storage is an issue, right? Never before, I mean, what we're seeing is so many first-time events because of all of these derivatives. Even so, even if there's no place to put the oil with all these Saudi tankers bringing more oil to our shores, what do you have? I'm going to pay you, what was it, $375 a barrel or whatever that number was. Oil went negative. What that should show every single person on this planet is that these markets can go negative. You can go below zero, people. If you have your money in these fiat markets, it can go below zero because they are contracts. They're not physical. The same thing is happening in the meat industry. See, I just had that interview, so that's all fresh. It costs him $1,200 to raise a cow, but he can only get $950 for it at market. Why? But yet the prices at the grocery store for the consumer are going through the roof. And that's all because of these contracts. Anybody can go onto the OCC.com. That's the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. And every quarter, they do a thing on derivatives in the FDIC insured banks. And if you look at that graph, you've got the end user, so like a cattle rancher or an oil guy or a miner, you know, to make sure that they can stay in business next year, can buy a legitimate contract to ensure that they can stay in business. That's down here. Speculative is up here. And that's what's deciding what the prices are. All of that speculation. We don't matter. Wall Street matters. And that's the piece that I pray is crumbling now. I pray it. I do.
Well, I pray it too. But I think we should finish with this. You tell me if you think I'm on the right track here.
Okay.
I'll do another screen share. While you were talking, what popped into my head was, and I played this soundbite many times before, is Representative Paul Kanjorski, just after the last meltdown, requiring a bailout of Wall Street. He was on C-SPAN, and he talked about the day the entire global economy almost disintegrated.
On Thursday at about 11 o'clock in the morning, the Federal Reserve noticed a tremendous drawdown of money market accounts in the United States to the tune of $550 billion was being drawn out in a matter of an hour or two. The Treasury opened up its window to help. They pumped $105 billion in the system and quickly realized that they could not stem the tide. We were having an electronic run on the banks. They decided to close the operation, close down the money accounts, and announce a guarantee of $250,000 per account so there wouldn't be further panic out there. And that's what actually happened. If they had not done that, their estimation was that by 2 o'clock that afternoon, $5.5 trillion would have been drawn out of the money market system of the United States, would have collapsed the entire economy of the United States, and within 24 hours the world economy would have collapsed. Now, we talked at that time about what would happen if that happened. It would have been the end of our economic system and our political system as we know it.
Could you hear that okay, Lynnette?
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So
isn't that amazing? And again, and if you flow into what they've been doing since September,
that's right.
All the money that they've been pumping into the repo markets, the money markets to prevent that. And even when this coronavirus kicked off and people were running to the bank to pull out cash, which was not electronic. And I don't know if you saw this. Did you see Neil Kashkari on PBS?
Yes.
And he said, we can make as much money as we need to. You don't have to worry about being able to pull money out of the banks.
Right. Well, that's the same thing Greenspan said years ago. He said,
and we can guarantee cash benefits as far out and at whatever size you like, but we cannot guarantee their purchasing power.
But we cannot guarantee the purchasing power of the dollar if we do that. So here was my point, though, about playing that Konjorsky soundbite, and I think you just nailed it. He said that if they hadn't shut down the system, $5.5 trillion would have disappeared. And what do we see on the back of the coronavirus? We saw $2.3 trillion from Congress come, and now we see these idiots saying they need another $3 trillion. That's $5.3 trillion. Doesn't account for all the stuff they're doing that we don't even know about, Lynnette. This is a run on the banks in real time. It's just maybe not an electronic one. This one is just in our face. So this is why we have these conversations, because I want people to understand how this is going to end. And barring some miracle in the ninth inning, I don't see it ending well.
I can't, I mean, these are beyond my control, but I don't seriously see anything that can be done to prolong this system that really has already died. And at 15.4 or 15.7 unemployment and getting worse, we are in a depression. The only thing that I'm waiting for, and you watch, that universal basic income should most likely usher in the hyperinflation part. Because people will go out and spend, if they know they're getting it every month, they're gonna go spend it. I'm watching the M2 velocity, the money velocity, but yeah, this cannot end well.
Well, and there's fewer goods being produced because nobody's working. So if this money goes back into the economy to fight for or compete for fewer and fewer goods with more and more dollars, that is hyperinflation. And the last thing I'll say about this is, doesn't it feel to you like this whole thing, it feels like we're in receivership to international globalist bankers? Like the looting is on. And if you buy that whole idea that these people not only own and control the whole world in the United States as a corporation, and our birth certificates are collateral against the debt, it feels like they're calling in their loan and we're just cattle.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. I'm telling you, this is UN Agenda 21 on steroids. Everything they dreamed about, it seems to be coming in. Look, they don't want us. They don't want us in single-family homes. They don't want us gainfully employed. They want us reliant on a government, a totalitarian government, and then we have no freedom. That's it. Game over.
Right.
So this is why
all the tracking devices.
Yep.
You know, and here, I'm sorry, but I have to add this in too, because when we're going through a financial system reset and transition, there is always a lot of depopulation. And I'm sorry to say that.
Well, I'm sorry to say it too. And I don't want to be doom and gloom. I'm a pragmatist. I use quantifiable information when I have these interviews with people. Now, YouTube will say that's harmful content to my viewers, but I get 97% likes on my videos. So to which viewers is this harmful? It's harmful to the globalists and the traders who have sold out this nation. And if they get their wish, it's game over for we the people. That's what keeps me up at night.
And I think that the battle is on. I would absolutely agree with that. And that's what we're watching. I mean, I was there as a new stockbroker in the 80s when they were talking about globalization. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I'm not so sure that sounds like a great idea to me. There's going to be a lot of jobs lost. And so now the tide, and it already had started to turn with President Trump renegotiating all of those trade agreements, which I've looked at, and they were really more for the corporate's benefit, not the sovereign countries, and therefore not the people. And I think what we're experiencing here is a breakdown of that globalization, and I hope we the people win. This is our battle, and we have to stand up.
Yep. That's exactly what I've been saying. I said it in that interview with Zach Voorhees. We're going to find out real soon what we're made of, and we're seeing some of that in Michigan. We're seeing some of it. We're seeing people stand up and say, no, we cannot live this way. Are we mice or are we men? Because we cannot live as mice because you people will just squash us. right? These are not benevolent dictators. They're malevolent dictators. And if they get their way, it's game over for you and your family and your children and your progeny and liberty and the Constitution and on and on and on. And unless we want to live under the tyrannical boot of fascism, stomping on a human face forever, we better stand up together. Lynnette, thank you so much for your time. I know I rant, but look, I've never seen, look, what we're watching right now is like a movie. And again, I couldn't have seen this happening 3 months ago.
Yeah.
All right. Tell
I'm very
people how
glad to be here and have this conversation with you,
Well, me
Sean.
too. And I respect your bravery and your courage because, you know, if you're monetized on YouTube and you want to stay monetized, you now have to pick and choose your words very carefully. You have to appease the masters or they will fire you. They will end your ability to earn a living, an honest living on their platform. Do you want to tell people how they can reach you?
Well, we have a great YouTube channel, which fortunately we don't monetize, so maybe that lets me get away with a little bit more. Plus, I supply all the links to everything, so they can Google my name, Lynnette Zang, Z-A-N-G, and I'll probably come up. We also have a great website, itmtrading.com, and you know we're here to be of service. We've been working, even though we're all in our own homes, we've been working together and still coming together, and we have a plan to help you survive this mess and even to thrive through this mess, because whoever holds the power at the end of this holds the power. And that's why central banks have been buying so much gold, because they know that's what's going to enable them. And we as individuals, we need to be doing the same thing. Silver, gold, those are monetary metals. You need both of them in your possession, out of the system. And that's more important now than it's ever been, especially with all the tracking and everything else and the digital currencies. Boy, I can't tell you. I don't care what the price is. That's your freedom. What's that worth?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just to say one more thing about silver being so cheap right now, don't let yourself fall victim to the illusion of this paper price, guys. Just never forget. Please. So I leave that bar on my desk. It is a store of energy. You have to remember all of the human energy and innovation that went into getting that stuff out of the ground and turning it into that beautiful bar. That is a store of energy, time, and effort spent. And the paper dollars you see being printed, the paper dollars you see on that U.S. debt clock, quite the opposite. They just print it out of thin air. They don't even print most of it anymore, Lynnette. They just snap their fingers and create ones and zeros on a computer screen.
Yep. Actually, they use debt that enslaves us.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Lynnette, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, my pleasure, Sean.
All right. My pleasure, too. Thank you so much. And guys, a special, heartfelt, sincere thanks to my patrons who are helping stand in the gap and keep us viable as YouTube has essentially fired SGT Report, a 10-year partner to YouTube. And even though they were only monetizing maybe 30% of my videos and interviews, they now say that my content is harmful to viewers. So if you appreciate this information and if you don't find it personally harmful to digest this information, please give it a like and share it within your sphere of influence. And if you want to support us on Patreon, I'll leave the link below. God bless each and every one of you. Thanks for watching. And for real news 24/7, visit us at sgtreport.com. Bye-bye.
The middle class is being annihilated. It's like 9/11 in slow motion here. And money is being looted from the middle class and transferred to the 0.01%, to the money masters.